Now what do we do? We're going to use a null object. So go to Layer, New, and click Null Object. We've used these in the past. And this is basically an invisible object that we can attach properties to. In our tracker panel, click Edit Target and make sure that it's applying to the null object that we created. So for you, it might say null1. For me, it says null9 just because I've been working on this project file, so I've created a bunch of other null objects. But make sure it's on the null object that you've created in this timeline and then click OK. Once you have that target selected, click Apply. Now, before you do that, or before I do that, I'm going to show you that if I drop down our bird settings, you have this new motion trackers drop down. If I drop that down, we see our tracker 1 that we've done. If I drop that down even more, we see all of these keyframes. These are keyframes for the position and all kinds of things of this track point. Now, if I click Apply, we're going to say Apply Dimensions to X and Y, yes, because I want it to apply to the X-axis and the Y-axis. You'll notice the keyframes turned red because in my null object now, if I open that up under Transform, we have keyframes applied to the position of this null object. Now, nothing happens. If I play through this, nothing is going to change. What can we do with the null object, though? We can attach things to it. So if I go and I add some text, tweet, little bird, and let's make sure that's a good size. I'm going to make it white. I'm using the Garamond font. Don't use that often. Let's put it right here. And let's just go actually to the very beginning and position it where we want. Maybe we want it up here right now. Now, if I play through this, nothing happens. But if I go back to the very first frame and I parent the text layer to the null object using the pick whip tool and dragging to null9, or this drop-down menu under parent, if you don't see that, just click the toggle switches modes button down here to null9. Now, whatever the null9 does happens to our text layer. That is pretty incredible, right? Really cool. So what you can do if you had any sort of mistakes in the tracking, you can go in and we can move this around. So say I go to this frame and I thought, oh, it didn't move enough. I can move not our text actually, we want to move the null, and we can do that just by clicking and dragging the position keyframes. So let me just go crazy though and put it over here, and you'll see what happens. Whoops, that frame goes all the way over here, but then this next frame goes back to where it was tracked. So you got to be careful, you got to be subtle with it. If you move one frame, you might have to move all of the frames after that a little bit, depending on how it was tracked. One thing I did to make this look a little bit better was add a little bit of motion blur to the text itself and enable it on our timeline right there. That motion blur just helps a little bit, makes it look a little bit more natural to me. So that's the basics of motion tracking. So you can imagine you can attach text to a train going across your frame, or to, really anything moving in your clip. We could also attach sort of effects. Say we want to change the color of this bird food or this treat that's the bird is getting. What we can do is go up to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer. Now, if you don't really care about this, go ahead and move on to the next lesson, but I want to just go through the visual effects side of things more than just the motion graphics side of things. And then go into your effects and presets, go to Hue and Saturation, and add this Hue Saturation Color Correction to the adjustment layer. I'm going to put that right above our bird. Now let's change the hue, and you'll notice that everything changes, not just this little bird food. So what we want to do, right, let's go back to the very beginning, is create a mask around this adjustment layer. So I'll just go in here, and I'm just doing this really quickly, but you can do this a little bit more slowly if this was for a real project. Go around here. Let's press F to add some feathering. And there's different ways to do this. This mask is just the easiest way, the quickest way. Now, if we parent the adjustment layer to the null object and we play through this, this adjustment affects this area and it sticks with it. If it wasn't attached to the null object, it would just stay in that one area. Crazy, right? So this is how you can, you can imagine if you wanted to add like flames or something on someone's hands, if someone's moving around and you attach the flames to the motion of the hand or the person running by, or if you want it to be on a house caught on fire, you can attach it to the house, and even if your camera is moving, the flames will be attached to that house. So let me just delete that because I don't really want that. And so this is the basics of motion tracking. In the next lessons, we're going to get a little bit more in depth with the other versions, which include both rotation and scale tracking.